All right. Hey guys, this is Sophia Witt with Students Supporting Israel. We have Amanda Severson from Benedictine University, the president and founder of the SSI at Benedictine. And she's going to be giving a presentation on Christian support for Zionism. So, Amanda, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me give this presentation about Christian support for Zionism. I'm really excited to share what I made for everybody. So I'll start off talking about my Catholicism and my religion. So I got baptized when I was a real little girl, and baptism is basically the Christian rite of admission and adoption with the use of water, because John the Baptist baptized Jesus, and God looked on Jesus and said that he was pleased with him. So by being baptized, it's kind of like a symbol that our life, we are children of God and we belong to him. And also it helps forgive the original sin and to walk in the newness in your new life with Jesus Christ. And that's just like when you're a little child, but also people who are adults can also be baptized too if they are coming into the religion. Then I went through First Holy Communion, which is when a person receives Eucharist, usually around like 7 to 8 years old, and that's when you accept bread and wine. And it's when you become one with Christ and believe in sharing eternal life with him. So the Eucharist, like I said, is the bread and wine. We believe that it is actually the body and blood of Jesus. And every time we have Mass on Sundays, you take in the Eucharist and in remembrance of Jesus and how he died for us. Then talking about my religious education from first grade all the way to 8th grade, we have that. Actually, I looked up the history of religious education for Catholicism, and it actually started in Rome back in 1562, and it was designed for kids to help initiate children into the religion. And the last step is confirmation, and that's when you seal your promise of Christianity, and that the promise basically that you made at baptism, being a child of God, and accepting that and affirming the Catholic belief. And that is what makes you a full member of the church, is by being confirmed. So I added this slide because I found that lots of people have questions about when it comes to saints and Catholicism and how that fits into our religion. I chose St. Clare. So when you get confirmed, basically you get a new name. And you get a new name by picking a saint that you admire or who you strive to be. So there's a patron saint for anything you can think of, even for like patron saint of dogs and animals. And St. Clare, I chose her for my confirmation name because I really was inspired by her story. So a little bit about her: she is an Italian saint. She was the first to follow Francis of Assisi, and she was canonized in 1255. And she came from a wealthy family, and she was devoted to prayer and would listen to Francis preach on the streets. And she really admired him, and she would like always go out on the streets just to hear him preach to everybody. And I picked her because she left everything she knew. She had her hair cut, and she exchanged her rich gown for a plain robe and veil. And I find that I admire that so much, because just imagining leaving everything that you know behind, your comfortable lifestyle, everything that you know, leaving it to just follow Christ and to teach the gospel to everybody. Like I feel like that's like something super hard to do, but following Christ, it results in being tested and sacrifices. So when I was researching to give this presentation, I also found that she was placed in a convent of the Benedictine nuns, which was crazy because I attend Benedictine, and I founded the chapter of SSI at Benedictine University. And learning that the confirmation saint that I chose when I was like in 8th grade was placed in the convent of the Benedictine nuns, which is basically the Catholic role that my school is founded on, was kind of ironic. I thought that was kind of fun to add in. She's also the founder of Poor Ladies, which now is known as the Order of St. Clare, the Poor Clares, and they're involved in lots of charity work. So my education back in high school kind of is the foundation of my story when it comes to supporting Israel. So back in high school, I belonged to District 308, and they did a really good job educating us high schoolers on the Holocaust, not so much Israel, but on the Holocaust. That we had a Holocaust speaker come to our school and speak, and I think really just like focusing in on like the story of the Holocaust and was a really important part of me starting to really understand and know the importance of Israel and the importance that Israel serves to the Jewish people. So throughout my high school career, I also was involved in a Catholic youth group for 4 years. And what we would also do is we would go to the Hesed House, which is a homeless shelter, and feed the homeless. And which is also kind of cool because actually Hesed is a Hebrew word, and the term like Hesed means like kind and giving, like charitable kind giving to others, and giving dignity to others. And that's what Hesed House does. It gives dignity, and it's charitable, and it gives shelter and food for the homeless. So I also thought that it was kind of funny how one of my biggest volunteer activities that I was involved in for 9 years now, its name Hesed is a Hebrew term, which I found interesting. And my family's support of Israel never really had like, I never remember having conversations about Israel with my family in high school, but when I got into college and I started telling my parents about my experiences and things I've been seeing and witnessing at my school, my parents like started talking about their stance on Israel and like how they thought what I was experiencing at my school was just completely absurd. And that is what kind of led me to start investigating more about the things that I was seeing on campus. So what I saw on campus was students social justice for Palestine, which is the SJP. And when I was a freshman, I would see like lots of big displays that were kind of like, very out there, like having death rallies, like laying on the floor pretending to be dead, lots of like headstones, like things that just like really, when I was a freshman in college, I just looked at and I like wanted no part of. I would walk away like, I don't know what that is. But continuing my education at Benedictine, I was in an IDS class, and it was called Stress of the Nations. I was put into a group, and my group chose to do our whole entire semester worth of research on the country of Palestine, which I never really knew much about. And after doing so much research, I realized that I'm like, that's kind of interesting how, like, from what I was reading, how it wasn't even really a country, and how that's probably why it was so hard for us to find information and statistics and numbers on Palestine, because it's the United States doesn't recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. And when we gave our presentation for our class, I had Palestinians in my group, and hearing their stories was really sad. And, it gave me their perspective on the side of the story, but also how they talked about Israel, and like how they also didn't like to say the word Israel because they don't believe in its existence. Like that really like kind of bothered me. I'm like, why can't you say Israel? And like, so I was the one person in the group who kind of like was it, like I didn't really agree with like what everyone else in my group was saying to the class. And I kept doing my own research, and I really found out that, this is actually having a club on campus, not believing in the existence and actually denouncing the state of Israel, I'm like, I don't think that's right. And I know for my own personal like Christian belief, like the Bible says, to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves and to ensure justice for those being crushed. So to like help the poor and the helpless, make sure that they get justice. And that's from Proverbs. And that's when I called SSI. I found their webpage because I heard from a high school friend that said, hey, it sounds like Benedictine needs an SSI chapter. So I called SSI and I talked to Sophia and Elon, and I traveled to New York with them. And if you weren't there in New York, you would have heard them say, like, we heard Amanda talk to us on the phone, and what we remember her saying is that she wanted to be the voice for the voiceless, which was true then, and it's true now, because after talking to other students on campus, they also would agree with me that they think that what SJP does on our campus like isn't promoting peace, it isn't promoting dialogue, that it's promoting hate. And I wanted to be the voice for the pro-Israel students and the Jewish students on campus who were all subjected to see these negative messages of Israel on our campus. So what does it mean to me? So passion for advocating for Israel's right to exist as a sovereign state, that it's God's given land to the Israelites, and that the Jews deserve a right to live in peace, as does everybody else, which is a God-given right, and correcting the misinformation about Israel shamelessly spread on my campus, whether it's from other students, other classmates, or even professors, because I've had professors email me and invite me to their office to basically debate about the existence, like the right of Israel's existence. And I've had some interesting conversations with professors over the years. And I would always end a conversation, why does everybody else get their own country besides the Jews? So I wanted to share this one poem that I was first read to. It was read to me in high school, and you guys may or may not be aware of it. First, they came for the socialist poem. So if you don't know this poem, I am going to pull this link up and I am going to read it to you because it really means a lot to me, and this is also what has helped my work for Zionism on campus. Okay. So first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So that hits home to me because I'm not Jewish, but the fact that even in the Bible it says to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, even though I'm not Jewish, I believe that I have to stick up for the pro-Israel students and the Jewish students on my campus because they didn't have representation, they didn't have a voice on campus, and I wanted to change that. And even if I'm not Jewish, I just believe that it was the right thing to do because of how I was brought up in my religion. So here's a graphic of the Arab world, which is the countries in green, and on the side I have here, like when I was told by a Palestinian classmate who was my friend when I was a freshman in college, all the way up to the point until I became president of SSI. He told me, I don't hate my Jew brothers and sisters, but Hamas are our freedom fighters, which was crazy because Sophia was with me on campus, and she was the one who told him, like, the Jews were exiled from Israel and how Hamas are not the freedom fighters for Palestinians, and how the Palestinians actually hate Hamas because Hamas is not good. The United States recognizes them as a terrorist organization. and they pay people to murder Jews. So I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I feel like the media, students, especially like JP, the only thing that they do is spread hate and lies about Israel. So brothers and sisters under God. So I know, like from the Bible, that God promised Abraham, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offspring all nations of earth will be blessed. And his offsprings being Isaac and Jacob. So talking about Catholics and Jews and Pope John Paul II. So there's an article that Pope John Paul II released a long time ago. I couldn't find the title of the article, but it was basically like Pope John Paul's discussion about Judaism and how it actually like agrees with Catholicism, because there has been anti-Semitism with Catholicism in the past. And Pope John Paul really just wanted to make that issue, bring awareness to that issue, and really just ultimately like show that the two religions do agree, and they are both brothers and sisters under God, and that we should both like respect each other and love each other as brothers and sisters. And that here's another point I have: Catholics and Christians don't just support Israel because of God. That can be a very annoying assumption for individuals. So Christians like support Israel not only because of God, or not just because of God, but because it is the Jews' right, is their right to have a return to their homeland, their ancestral homeland, and make it a sovereign state. So there's also this thing that Jews seem to think that Christians want them all in Israel so they can die in Armageddon. So that is very well, some people like to tie that to like Christian evangelicals, that they all think that, which that's not true. Not all Christian evangelicals believe that. Some do, but I just wanted to make point out Christians believe in Israel because they believe that that's how the Armageddon will come, and like Jesus will come back to earth. So that's not common of everybody. But in case individuals didn't know what Armageddon was or what I'm referring to, it's basically a biblical hill where this event takes place at, which is in Israel, and it's where the last battle between good and evil will be fought. That's for individuals who didn't know about Armageddon. So this slide talks about the demographics of Israel and how the current religious demographic of Israel, the makeup is 75% is basically Jewish, 18% Muslim, and 2% Christian, and so on and so on. And I really like talking about the demographics of Israel, like religious-wise, because Israel welcomes people of all different religions. That they don't discriminate. Like, you don't have to be Jewish to live in Israel. You can be of any religion, identify with any religion, and you are still welcomed and treated the same as someone who's Jewish living in Israel, because they are the only democratic state in the Middle East. And that's why, being a Christian, I wanted to bring up this other slide comparing the religious demographics of Israel to that in other Arab countries, and how that there is a dramatic decline of non-Muslims in the Middle East, and that Christians actually face persecution and displacement, especially in areas like Iraq and Iran. And I feel like nobody's really talking about this persecution that Christians are facing in the Middle East, and I think it's really important, because I have here in 2003, the Christian population was 1.5 to 1.8 million, and now 2020, it's between 250,000 to 300,000. Like that's a crazy difference, and that really just goes to show that Christians are facing prejudice and discrimination in Arab countries. yes, Christians can face prejudice and discriminations in any other country, in every country in the world, but I'm strategically just talking about the Arab countries and comparing it to Israel. And like, this is why I support Israel, because I know if I traveled to Israel being Christian, that I would be more safe and protected than being a Christian in an Arab country. So how I felt at my campus. So being a student of Benedictine University, which is a Catholic university, I was very surprised to see the large support that my campus has for the state of Palestine, and how little support the school has for Israel and for the pro-Israel students and the Jewish students on campus. And I thought that it was crazy how, being a Catholic university, they never really brought up the issue about how, hey, in Arab countries, Christians are being persecuted. But then when I walk onto campus, all I see are Palestinian flags and support for Palestine. And just walking by and seeing this, it really does make me feel unsafe. And I'm Christian, and that's like what's crazy, and that's why I started SSI, was because I could not even imagine how Jewish students on my campus felt walking past this to go to their class every day. Like, it just blows my mind. And another thing that made me really start up my club was there was a Facebook post from a parent. So on the right, the picture on the right, that is a picture taken from Apartheid Week. And there was a parent that brought their child to Benedictine to see if this was a university that their child would want to attend after high school. And on Facebook, the comment has been deleted, but the parent was like, I will never let my child go to a school that's so openly is so openly anti-Semitic. And that just went to prove that I'm not the only one that feels the way I feel, and that there are even strangers that come visit our school that see that there is a problem. And if you guys know anything else about Benedictine University in the media, that one individual who spoke up against, we had a Holocaust survivor come to our school to speak, and she was urging him to denounce the state of Israel. That is my school. She's part of SJP at my school, and that is kind of like the atmosphere that is Benedictine University. And that's really why I started SSI, because I wanted to change that atmosphere. And you can just see like the flag, like all these, there's no picture of the wall, but the wall that they have, it depicts a picture of a silhouette of a little child reaching for a balloon. And that is clear, like, aggressive message. That is a very hostile message that the SJB club is sending to pro-Israel and Jewish students on campus, because as the people watching this recording know, that with the conflict of Israel and Palestine, that Hamas literally takes balloons and straps bombs onto them, sends them over to Israel so that children can be, children like balloons, they get attracted to it, they want to catch the balloon and die. And there has been major fatalities attributed to just the balloons. So like, depicting that image on a wall and like displaying it where everybody walks by on campus is a big, hateful, aggressive message that they're sending, that any normal person walking by that doesn't know about the conflict and doesn't know about the strapping the bombs to those balloons, they would just think that it's the silhouette of a child reaching for a balloon. They wouldn't know the message that is attached to that picture and like what that symbolizes for the Jewish and pro-Israel students on campus. And I brought that up to administration, and I was told that I can't be saying those things, that because I'm a leader, because I am a leader, I represent Benedictine, I cannot be saying those things, which is also crazy, because I feel like being a student and seeing these things happen at my school, I have a right to address my concerns, and I have a right to speak out against the hate against Israel and Jewish students. So I wanted to talk about the Christians United for Israel. Sophia actually is the one who introduced me to this organization, and I wanted to read you their message and vision statement. So they are the largest pro-Israel organization in the United States with over 8 million members. And Christians United for Israel is the foremost Christian organization educating and empowering millions of Americans to speak and act with one voice in defense of Israel and of the Jewish people, and how they're committed to confronting indifference and combating anti-Semitism in all forms wherever it may be found. So I also have like the ADL logo here and the SSI logo, because I'm really happy that there are so many organizations who do support Israel. And I kind of I reflect and I agree with their mission and vision statements. And there's a lot of resources out there. I know that the ADL, for other SSI chapters, if you happen to be watching this, the ADL actually has a really good resource for chapter leaders and even members. It has a packet about how to address like anti-Semitism and opposition of the existence of Israel, and it actually has like common, I would say like common arguments that people who don't support the existence of Israel would have, and how good a counter argument to defend Israel. What there's examples of those that the ADL has. So they have a really nice pamphlet for college students advocating for Israel. So I think that's really something that everyone should check out. So about the Christians United for Israel, they have a policy agenda, and I think what they have done so far is amazing. What they continue to do is just great work. They support a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. One thing that I experienced having tables and doing tabling events for SSI on my campus was I had individuals walk up to me to my table, and they would look at my banner, my SSI banner. They're like, students supporting, you mean Palestine, right? Not Israel. And I'm like, no, we're students supporting Israel. And he was just like, yeah, no, Israel doesn't exist. They're evil, they don't exist, it's Palestine. I'm like, no, Israel does exist. I'm like, and actually, our country, United States of America, actually doesn't even recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. So yes, we are students supporting Israel, and our own country doesn't even recognize Palestine. And I actually had that individual tell me, like, F USA and F Israel. And when I hear statements like that, it just further makes me feel unsafe. And actually, there are so many incidents that happened at my campus to me being president of SSI. I actually had to file a complaint to the Benedictine campus police, because I noticed when I would print out all these flyers, me and my club members would spend, you know how long it takes to put flyers up everywhere on campus. It takes a long time. And I would go to class, and after class, I would walk the same hallways. I put the flyers up, and then my flyers were gone. All my flyers went missing. And it didn't just happen once, this happened on multiple occasions. And I got tired of reprinting all these SSI flyers out because it costs money. Like, I know some students don't have to pay for printing, but at Benedictine, in your student, you have to pay. So I went to the police and I filed a complaint, and actually they found the two individuals who were tearing down my flyers. And it's a very small world. I actually learned that the individual who works for the campus police, who caught the individuals who were tearing down my flyers, he actually told me that he's Jewish and that he has family that lives in Israel, and that he is actually really proud of our club here and proud of SSI and the fact that we're on campus and we're trying to make a difference, that he actually ended up coming to all of our events, which I thought was really sweet. And even if if he realized that that was sweet and like what we're doing, I really was hoping that that same message I can send to everybody else on campus. And unto this day, I do not know who those two individuals were. I was supposed to be reimbursed for my money, never got reimbursed for my printing money, and I was supposed to get an apology from them, which I never received. So I just am happy that we have organizations like SSI and CUFI that really fight against these injustices. So Christians United for Israel also opposes international pressure on Israel and talking about opposition to the BDS movement. That is a big thing on my campus about supporting the BDS movement. But I also like to, when I have table events, bring awareness to individuals and say, hey, did you know that that's anti-Semitic? Because back then, Hitler made all the Jews like self-identify as being Jewish and have all their businesses identify that like a Jew owns this business, that they sell like Israeli goods, Jewish goods, and there's so many issues that I have with the BDS movement, and I'm really happy that our government did not pass the pro BDS movement, that they didn't pass the that legislation, that our government actually voted against that. So that's good, and I want to make sure that it stays that way. And countering Palestinian terrorism, and I just think that Christians Unite for Israel and Students Supporting Israel like all do really great important work. And us being students, we are the ones who can take this knowledge and actually give it to others on campus who may not be knowledgeable of the events going on that are taking place in this world. So talking about their initiatives and what have those policy agendas and what have they actually achieved. So Christians oppose the deliverance of U.S. taxpayer aid to Palestinian Authority because PA is not a true partner for peace. If you guys heard about the recent peace agreement or peace deal between Israel and Palestine, the PA said no, 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 1,000 no's. So no, they're not a true partner for peace. They don't want peace. And to recognize Hamas as a tyrannical terrorist organization, and to assist in maintaining Israel's sovereignty and support of anti-BDS legislation through the government of the United States, and working towards the reintroduction of the Israel Anti-Boycott Act, and to really just make sure that we preserve like the strong relationship that our country has with Israel. So I wanted to talk also about something that was brought up in the past. I was asked, Amanda, do you feel like you made a difference? Because I'm a senior and I'm graduating this semester, and it took me 8 months to get my chapter approved at Benedictine University. Lots of delay tactics were thrown my way, lots of obstacles, but I managed to get through those, and I managed to create the 3rd chapter of SSI in the state of Illinois. And I'm really proud of doing that. And I was asked, Amanda, do you feel like you made a difference? And I do have to say, yes, I do feel like I made a difference. I know that my faculty advisor, she told me that the reason why she decided to be my advisor, she agreed to it, was because she knew that nobody else was going to do it. And that just shows how there's not just forces that are silencing pro-Israel students on campus, but there's actually forces that are silencing faculty from even admitting that they support Israel. So after having this club approved, my faculty advisor told me that there were lots and lots of workshops for faculty members to learn about dialogue and actually learn more about Israel and anti-Semitism. And I know I made a difference because I had individuals walk up to my tabling events, all the tabling events that I have had and have been able to have due to this coronavirus pandemic. I've had students walk up to my table knowing nothing about Israel, and I was able to have them walking away with a smile and with um, a positive feeling about Israel when they left my table. And that was due to Nadav. So thank you to Nadav for Zionist Organization for America, because I also had Elena from Hasbara come to my club and train us on advocacy for Israel. So I know that I have had individuals learn something, even if it was just something small, that, SodaStream, for example, it's a company in Israel that has Jews and Arabs working side by side in peace and harmony, because peace peace is possible. And just letting students know nothing about Israel, that Israel is so much more than just a conflict, that it's a country with a beautiful history and culture. I know I made a difference, because all these students who see all these negative messages and displays about Israel that SJP puts on for campus, I was there, and I was there to show them that there is another side to the story, that it's not just one side, that there's two. And I do believe that we made a difference. Even if it's a small one, I do know it's a big one. Because in every conversation that I've had at Benedictine University, I have always tried to put Israel in a good light. I always tried to find a way to talk about Israel, because there's a lot of things that you can involve Israel with, like sports, medicine, anything, you name it. So for conclusion, my bad experience turned into a good lesson, because my bad experience being the anti-Semitism I see in my school, but also turning it into a good lesson because I'm Catholic, and because I believe in God, and because I have the values and morals that I have. That is what made me able to speak up against what was happening on campus, and to start my SSI club, to talk about the truth, to tell the truth, to give the other side of the story. And I'm really thankful for Students Supporting Israel, because of them, because of Elon. He is the one who really helped me in my belief for Zionism, that I was actually able to travel to New York City, and I was able to go to the conference and learn about more about how to advocate and promote Israel in a good light, and actually learning about how SJP even has terrorist ties to the organization. Lots of things that I didn't know about before. And I wanted to talk about how Israel is God's land and the land of the Jews, by talking about how God always keeps his promises. And I have written down here Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, King David. And I kind of wanted to touch more on that. So, God's covenant. And like, what is this covenant? The covenant is the promise. And the promise that God made was the promise to the Jewish people through Abraham, after Abraham was able to successfully withstand a test of faith, that God showed Abraham the land of Canaan, and he basically promised Abraham the land of Canaan. And he said that this is the future home of the Israelites, and he promises it to Abraham and Abraham's people. So that was like the first covenant that God made to Abraham. So then Jacob is Isaac's son. So I kind of have that it should be Abraham, Jacob, and then Isaac. So Jacob is the grandson of Abraham. So I want to talk about Isaac first. So he had a wife who had twins, and Jacob fought with his brother a lot, but ended up reconciling with his brother, and an angel gave Jacob the new name Israel. So that name, Jacob received the name Israel, was given to him by an angel. And since Jacob got the name Israel, and Jacob is as Isaac's son, God has made constant promises to Abraham, to Jacob, and Isaac about giving the land of Canaan to the Israelites. And with Moses, we see that the covenant in action, how Moses led his people out of slavery, out of Egypt, because he was following divine instructions from God. And that's when you know that Moses was given the 10 Commandments from God. And also, that is the 12 tribes of Israel. So Moses was able to free the 12 tribes of Israel from Egypt, and in their quest of returning home to Israel, which was Canaan, but that was the covenant that God made to the Jewish people, was for them to go to their rightful land, to be the nation of Israel. And David, I wanted to talk about King David, how he was appointed by God to be king, and how really, like, that is why I have my Christian support for Israel, because Israel is God's land and it is the land of the Jews. And until Jesus comes again to defeat evil, that we must. Even if you're not a member of SSI, even if you don't even work for advocacy, or you're not even Jewish, or you're not even Christian, really just to defeat the evils that we see, the evils being the lies that are being spread, the demonization that we see of Israel in the many facets through the BDS movement and such, and the delegitimization of Israel as a country, and it's the delegitimization and the double standard, really. Always putting Israel on a double standard compared to other countries in the world, when Israel is in such a special, complicated situation. All of its neighbors want to see the destruction of Israel on a day-to-day basis. So putting a double standard on Israel is really unfair, and those are the evils that we must defeat. And I was able to defeat the evils that I saw at my school at Benedictine because of the education and support that I received from SSI. And that is my story about my Christian support for Zionism, and how I really encourage everybody to really speak out against the misinformation and the lies and the evils that we see today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was so great. We really appreciate you, and we hope that everyone enjoyed this video, and this is available for future SSIers to engage with. And Amanda, if you want to drop your Instagram handle,
Oh, yes.
that way you can get some followers, and people can ask questions if they have any.
Thank you so much. And yes, my Instagram handle is Amanda_Rose_98. One more time, Amanda_Rose_98. Follow me.
All right, thanks, Amanda, and have a great day.
Thank you too.